Greetings, this is August 15th at 12 a.m. We are looking at a map of Canada from the NRC at 8:39 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and as you can see there's a great deal of intensity in the Northwest Territories, and it stretches in a belt along the boreal forest from Alaska down to Ontario. We are also looking at British Columbia, and the infrared hotspots are only showing up in regions north, with a few scattered, isolated incidents of infrared appearing. The reason for this could be the weather pattern that's parked itself over the center of the province, and here's a satellite close-up of the Elephant Hill wildfire area, and as you can see, a lot of smoke, haze, and cloud cover. I can only really speculate that there may be a lot of smoldering, that there's some suppression on the fire from smoke and humidity, and that there are flare-ups within the perimeter boundaries. This is a map that was sent to me from a viewer. It's made by the TNG GIS Stewardship Department, and their contact information is on there. I don't have a link for them yet. I'd like to find one. It's showing a progression in days through those tones along the northern flank and the eastern flank. They become apparent 2 days prior, 3 days prior, and the furthest most north is the current day. The interesting portion is in the 2 to 3 days, you can see where the infrared indications match up with this map. At that point, any further fire progression was not detected by the infrared. So using the scale that's attached at the top, I'm determining that this fire moved approximately 15 kilometers in 2 days. So if I'm situated anywhere within 15 kilometers northeast of this firehead, I would have concerns and want to have myself on full alert. It looks to be stretching from the western shores of Young Lake all the way up to Little Green Lake and many points in between. It's a little too difficult for me to actually read what the areas are on this, but it seems to confirm the latest map produced by the TNRD for the outer perimeter. So given the wind patterns, the terrain, the fuel type in the area, this fire has shown a behavior where it slumbers and then leaps forward. It did that ahead of Loon Lake. It did it again as it went to the Bonaparte Plateau. It is an unpredictable fire, and I'm not saying it has a personality. What I'm saying is that all the factors combine to make certain areas stay volatile until there's a wind shift, and then it leaps in a specific direction. I'm also seeing some infrared that's been overlaid. You'll notice that in the southern portion along the eastern flank. If you've been watching these videos, I immediately recognize that controlled infrared patterning. There is, I don't know if that's coordinated with the days, depending on the shade. I'm also seeing that same intensity on the western flank of that area at Highway 97, Highway 99, and on the south, and definitely very recent movement northward on where some isolated, it looks like some isolated flame tips took off. I like the map. It's well drawn, well composed, and it looks like it would aid in navigation when you're kind of out in the bush, and that is something that we'll have to look for if they do updates. We're now looking at a map I was able to get about 9:15 p.m. on August 14th, and it's showing radiant energy, and the scale at the top indicates a purple area is down close to 0, 100, and it moves up the scale to blue, then green, yellow, and red, which is 400, and it's scaled in FRP MW. I'd really like to assume that MW means megawatts, but I can't verify that right now. So I'm just going to go with their explanation. It's radiant intensity picked up by the MODIS system. Now, one of the first things I noticed when looking at this angle towards Cache Creek, we're looking from the south, is over on your left-hand side, that's the area of volatility that's about 5 to 6 kilometers west of Highway 97 in the Boston Flats region. It was approaching the valley south of McLean Lake, and we can see that the intensity on that hillside has gone down almost barely perceptible. And I know the crews have been working very hard in that area, and this is giving an indication that there is suppression going on there. The heat is lowering. Here, if we jump over to Highway 99, Highway 97, that's south and of Maiden Creek along the power line, we can notice many more areas in the red and in the green. So I hope that this is giving us an indication of where the specific areas of volatility still exist within that section of the fire. We also see a lot of purple, blue, and those are indicating a lower end of the scale, perhaps areas that have been suppressed or maybe smoldering a little bit and are in controlled areas. Now we're jumping over to Clinton. We can see 3 indications of radiant intensity on top of the hill to the southeast of Clinton. This pattern appears to confirm the data we received from the infrared overlays. We've moved northeastwards. We're looking at the southeastern hill southeast of the chasm and moving towards Loon Lake. You can see those patches that we picked up on infrared a couple of videos ago, and they are still showing radiant intensity at this time. We're going to move northwards slightly. This is up onto the plateau, and we can see this grouping of radiant intensity. This is a remnant of the last 2 days, and also if you look to the right hand portion of your screen, that's around the Bonaparte Valley and Young Lake. In here we can see some red, yellow, a bit of orange. Those are areas that are continuing to show volatility. The blue and purple indications are, I would say, 80%, 90% of the activity in the area, and we can see that the hottest portions are to the west of Young Lake and to the north of Upper Loon Lake. We're now looking at a close-up south of Upper Loon Lake and a portion that's stretching westward on the left of your screen towards Loon Lake, and this is showing continued intensity in the north portion of this section of the fire. Here we are looking at Hyheum, and there is extensive volatility to the south of the lake, and we are seeing blue and purple near the lake, lower in intensity, and we are seeing this band of radiant energy stretching to the southwest. We're going to take one more look at the southern flank, and here you can see an overview of the region. In the lower right-hand portion of your screen, we see a concentration of intensity. That's the Cache Creek Hills, about 5 kilometers east of Cache Creek. And we see throughout this array of satellite information, there are pockets of volatility surrounded by areas of low intensity. I would like to jump back to the infrared map and take a look around the Cariboo region for areas that are displaying infrared patterns and random behavior so that we can share some of what we're seeing. So we're going to jump north to the Risky Creek area, and I'm looking at infrared behavior approximately 35 kilometers northwest of Highway 20. I'm going to roll into the terrain map, and that will give people familiar with the area a chance to gauge where these infrared sections of volatility are still perceptible. Now we will move to the Alexis Creek area, and we can see the infrared activity is approximately 2 kilometers, 3 kilometers to the south and southeast of Highway 20. Now we are looking at a terrain overlay, and we can see that the infrared hotspots have not crossed the river in this satellite representation. Now we're moving over to Tsilhqot'n, and we can see where these two fire areas are. That's Highway 20 that's moving across the right-hand portion of your screen up to the top of the screen. That looks like One Eye Lake, and we can see that most of the infrared behavior is occurring on opposing sides of valleys that are running adjacent or parallel to each other. And it's difficult to tell which way the fire is traveling without analyzing the wind behavior and making a study of specifics to each of these fire perimeters. That's kind of why I'm concentrating on the Elephant Hill one, because each fire situation is so dynamic, localized, and particular to the fuel types and what's going on in that terrain. This is a large complex fire that is approaching Nazco, and I was drawn to what almost appears as wind patterns in the infrared as it moves over this terrain. We now can see kind of a three-dimensional shadowing added to it. The town is in the top right portion of the screen. So we'll zoom in, and here you can see the fire head, and some of those isolated hotspots are approaching within 3 kilometers of Nazco and the Rainbow Lake area. They appear to be up on ridges or on mountaintops and are probably viewable from the town if it's not being obscured by smoke. This is another fire. It's a little bit further north. It's now approaching within 5 to 6 kilometers of Tsilhqot'n Lake and Finger Tsilhqot'n Park. We can see the terrain here. Most of that infrared intensity is gathered in a series of ridge lines and another lake. I'd also like to jump further east and look at a hotspot that's appeared sort of adjacent to the Brûlé mines. That's northwest of Tumbler Ridge and about 30 kilometers southwest of Highway 97 at Chetwynd. Again, a very different terrain. The province is vast. Each section has its own idiosyncrasies that make each part of the province unique and beautiful, but also very hazardous and dangerous in a fire situation. So one of the key aspects of understanding this fire that I've learned is to have a handle on the wind, and this program, Windy, has been invaluable in predicting wind shifts and changes. It's kept us kind of ahead of the game. I think when you can see the wind and you combine that with a study of the local geography, you can begin to get an understanding of which way the weather patterns are going to flow as they approach the plateaus and the mountain ranges, and we get visual confirmation both here and on some of the webcams, the highway cams through Drive BC, and also from on-the-ground reports from people that are either commenting or communicating via email and saying, hey, the wind is doing this in this direction. So let's look at it. We've got 1 kilometer coming primarily from the south. We've got motion that's bringing wind from the west and kind of moving it up over the mountain ranges, and then it's shifting and changing, and we might be back into those doldrum patterns. Everything looks below 10 kilometers an hour except for the afternoons, Thursday, Friday, and we may see some more increasing cloud cover and a touch of precipitation early in the morning on Saturday. So the wind is a variable. It's good to keep checking it to see if you can catch trends. Also, I want to remind everybody, check those bulletins below. They're changing fast. The ones from the TNRD and the ones from BC Wildfire. There's an active wildfire situation going on right now to the east and southeast of Green Lake. You want to be aware of it. You want to be aware of where the fire is likely to travel. Verify your position. Know your escape route. Have all your resources planned and packed and ready to go. Check up on your neighbor and be safe, everyone.